Thank you. Again, I'm Anju Bisan Singh, and I'm Senior Manager Education Marketing with Smart Technology. So firstly, hello to everybody. And on Smart's behalf, I would like to thank our speakers who have taken the time to share their knowledge and insights with all of us. And I would also like to thank the attendees who are taking the time to invest in improving teaching and learning in the schools and districts. Our speakers today are Debbie Rice, Director of Technology, Auburn City Schools, Alabama, and Susan Neal, who is from Elko County School District in Nevada. When we had when you had registered for this webinar, we had asked you a question, and I would just like to share the results from the survey that we had done. So the question that we had asked was, has new technology been installed in your classrooms in the past 12 months? And an overwhelming majority of the audience said yes. So this is great insight for our speakers who can just make sure that their comments and their information takes this into account. I would now like to ask Eric to quickly show up a quick poll that we will do with the audience. Again, throughout this webinar, we will do polls from time to time, and this is essentially so that our speakers understand, where the audience is placed. So the poll question is, does your school or district currently have a technology plan in place? And your options are yes or no. Select one or the other, and please click on the button that says Submit Answer. Okay, Eric, are we ready to share the results? So there you go. Does your school or district currently have a technology plan in place? And it's great. 78.5% of the audience does, and a smaller percentage doesn't. So thank you for sharing that information with us. I would now like to ask Debbie, she's Director of Technology, Auburn City Schools in Alabama, to proceed with her presentation. Debbie, over to you.
Thank you, Anju. First, I would like to take the opportunity to thank SMART for asking Auburn City Schools to participate in this webinar. As always, we're excited to share with others the success of our students. The first slide that I'm going to push out to you will give you a brief history of our demographics. As you can see, Auburn City Schools, the current makeup of our school system is 1 kindergarten, 6 elementary schools, 1 middle school, 1 junior high, and 1 high school. And of these schools, 1 elementary school opened this past current school year. We have approximately 6,000 students and are growing at a rate of about 4% per year. Auburn is a university town, and it's home to Auburn University. We have approximately 42 languages spoken in the homes of students, and our economic status is approximately 25 free and reduced. Our ethnicity breakdown is 27% African American, 63% Caucasian, and 11% other. As I was preparing for this presentation, I decided to break the topics down into categories since I felt funding touched all aspects of education and leadership. And we know leadership is the driving force that determines the allocation of funds. So one of the things, and as Anju asked earlier, planning is part of the leadership process. So one of the things that we do is we make sure that all stakeholders are at the table to discuss how the funds are to be spent. Auburn City Schools involves parents, students, teachers, administrators in the decision-making process. Part of the process is deciding how technology is to be funded or how it's to be spent in our district. Currently, we do have a system-wide technology plan that's approved at the state level. The district plan spans 4 years and is updated annually. Each of our schools also creates a local school technology plan that's umbrellaed by the district plan, and those plans as well are updated annually. The district typically hosts monthly technology meetings with the district technology group to discuss future direction. And part of our leadership planning process, what we do is we make sure that we stay up to date with current trends and future directions by participating in the state impact survey and the National Speak Up survey, which we feel is a great resource to collect information about local and national trends as it relates to technology integration. The next category that I feel like that needs to be reviewed in the technology planning process is the funding aspect. As the webinar suggests, funding is necessary to budget for the necessary technologies in the classroom. Currently, Auburn City Schools receives E-rate funding, Title I funds, Title II Part D funds, and various other grants. Our E-rate funds are used to support our network infrastructure costs, and those costs include Internet access and telephone services. Our Title I funds have been used to fund laptops and curriculum for those schools that have been identified as Title I schools, in which we currently have 3 of those schools. EETT or Title II Part D funds are used solely for professional development costs, and these funds are to assist with paying stipends to teachers for professional development participation. Other forms of funding that have been used are our after-school programs at our elementary schools, and these funds have been used to assist with computer replacement costs over the past 8 years and the installation of smart boards in every classroom within our district. The next area or the category that I wanted to talk about a little bit about was curriculum. We're all seeing how technology has changed the way students prefer to study and learn, and the Internet has opened doors to resources that teachers have at their fingertips to be able to work with all students. Some of the ways in which we've tried to change the delivery of curriculum in the classroom is through a 21st Century Learning initiative, in which we place laptops in the hands of students that are junior high in grades 8 to 9. The resources and software that have been installed on the laptops it's been in an effort to help us redirect textbook cost to help us fund technology equipment and digital textbooks. Also, we charge a modest fee to students to assist with the maintenance cost of the summer refresh of our tablets and to assist with some of the technical needs that we incur. Also, with this initiative, we've seen a reduction in paper costs due to moving toward the use of online resources, being able to print to PDF files instead of paper. Professional development probably, to me, is the cornerstone of the success of any technology initiative that a district may become involved in. In 2007, with the purchase of smart boards in our district, we recruited 10 instructional technology coaches to assist with teacher training at each of our schools. These 10 technology coaches became smart master teachers, and their sole responsibility was to work with teachers as it related to curriculum in small groups, large groups, or one-to-one, whatever the need might be. I will say, due to budgetary constraints, as this webinar is about, we do have restraints that we do have to look at sometimes. We did have to reduce the number of our instructional technology coaches to 3 from the 10 that we were originally able to recruit. But those 3 have in turn been able to serve the district. And with the leadership seeing there was such a need for the instructional technology coaches, again, they did allow us to keep the 3. Some of the things that we've done with professional development is to create vertical and horizontal training of teachers, which has become very popular in Auburn City schools. An example of this is science teachers across a grade level, say, share lesson plans that they've all created together using horizontal planning time. And the same is true with the vertical alignment as well. Teachers across our K-12 are moving upward, just say in math as an example, to meet. They just decided to meet quarterly. to begin to discuss the scope and sequence of lesson plans and to make sure that the curriculum integration is a common conversation in these meetings, and having part of the technology and the tools that they have in the classrooms. So we've expanded more, and not so much the focus on the equipment, but now they're truly talking about the curriculum. One of the most recent challenges has been to create a curriculum map in the elementary and secondary schools that addresses the tools that the schools are using in the classroom and how the lessons need to be reviewed to enable the teacher to be more successful with the tools that they have. And the tools that they currently have in the classrooms are laptops, again, internet research, smart boards. We also provide summer training for teachers, which is voluntary, and we do pay stipends for attendance. And as I said earlier, those are typically funded through the EETT funds that we have. The next slide is infrastructure, and then, as always, the infrastructure needs to support the learning and the tools that you're putting in place. All of our facilities currently are connected through a full duplex, 1 gig fiber optic backbone. All of our buildings are connected at 1 gig, running full duplex. And each facility is internally wired with enhanced Cat5 or Cat6 copper wire, providing multiple 100 meg connections to every classroom, lunchroom, and meeting facilities as well. Also, our junior high and high schools we've converted them from being completely wired to wireless networks. There are approximately 175 access points in both of those facilities, controlled locally at the board office by one single wireless controller. The internet access is provided, which is funded through E-rate funds at 20 megs to both the junior high and the high school, and then 10 megs to middle school and 10 megs to the elementary schools. We do have 3 different ISPs that we lease from, and one thing that this does allow us to do is when one internet resource goes down, we can switch over and go to one of the other 2 ISPs to make sure that we keep our internet up and available at all times. The last slide that I wanted to talk a little bit about was policy, and we all know that policy provides the foundation that enables planning to take place. One of the things that we have developed are acceptable use policies that all students and teachers and administrators are to adhere to annually. And we believe that the enforcement of these acceptable use policies allows us to reduce costs by making sure that the appropriate use of equipment, software, and resources are managed and maintained. And the last slide that I have is just a collection of all of the key components which we feel are necessary and need to be looked at when one is planning and look into budget for the necessary technologies.
Thanks very much, Debbie. That was great. Thanks for sharing all of that with us. Before I introduce the next speaker, I would like Eric to push the next poll question onto the audience, please. So there it is. And the question is, are you eligible for Title I funding? And you can either choose yes or no, and just like last time, submit your answer. Okay, Eric, are we ready to share the results? Great. So it's a 50-50 split. That's interesting. I would also like to request the audience to submit any questions that they may have. You are able to do that throughout the duration of the webinar, and essentially once the second presentation is over, we will go through the questions and address them to one or both of the speakers. So thanks very much for sharing your answers with us, and I would like to now introduce Susan Neal. She is from Elko County School District in Nevada. Susan, over to you.
Thank you. As Debbie said earlier, thank you to SMART for allowing Elko County to share our information as well. We're excited to do that. Just a little background information. I work for the Elko County School District, and I mainly work with teachers and getting them to use technology, so I'm more in the professional development side. Previously, I was a classroom teacher. Our county is located in the northeastern corner of Nevada, and as you can see, it's quite large. Our overall county population is just slightly over 45,000. We have 7 elementary schools, 3 middle, 3 high schools, 4 combined, and 5 rural schools, which means that the 5 rural schools are one-room schoolhouses. 4 of our schools are actually in different time zones. They're in Mountain Time while we're in Pacific Time. We actually have one that doesn't follow daylight savings, so that's quite a challenge at times. Some of our schools are at least 100 miles away from here in Elko. We have approximately 9,600 students, and there are about 1,000 staff members. Roughly 800 of those are teachers. And just to comment, Debbie had commented about technology plan. We do have a technology plan in our school district. It's up for renewal this coming year, so we'll be working on revising it, and we are going to follow what our state has been doing, which they just adopted a new technology plan this year. Our goal is to increase student achievement using the most effective tools. So we have decided we can purchase all the technology and equipment that we can afford, but without training, effective integration doesn't occur. So our school district has committed resources and personnel necessary to ensure the training component is in place. Just a little background, because we had mentioned earlier about new school construction and renovation. While right now we're kind of in a slump, there isn't any new school construction going on or renovation, but we did build a new middle school in 2007 in which we fully equipped the school with smart boards. We contracted with the builder to put in the wiring and projectors, hang the smart boards, do everything that we needed to. That school has about 700 students. And then our old junior high became a 5-6 school, and it had a few boards in it, but they decided to fully equip that as well, and it just opened this year. All of the funding for that came out of our pay-as-you-go funds, and that is a tax levy that's 75 cents on every $100. And we have this in lieu of a bond, so we pay no interest on it. Smartboard technology has been really exciting for our school district. Of course, as you all know, the key is to get your teachers excited about the technology and using the technology. And I've been in this particular job for 9 years now, and this is the most excited I have seen teachers about using a piece of technology, using their smartboard. And just a little background, we had a few smartboards in our district in 2000, but most of our excitement for smartboard technology grew out of a RUS grant, which is the USDA grant in 2005. The RUS grant originally was for distance learning, and so we were brainstorming what can we do with that. So we had interactive video equipment, and then decided that one of the tools we needed was a smartboard. So with that grant, we received about 66 boards, and from that grant and the installation of those boards, word spread like wildfire around our district of how excited the teachers that had gotten those boards, how excited they were. And so from that kind of got the whole ball rolling. And from there, we received a state grant, SB 185, and we purchased another 50 to 60 boards from that one. So just with that RUS grant, that's what started all of our smartboard technology going. So right now we have over 400 boards have been installed. And our goal is to have every classroom that wants a board to have one. And so right now we have somewhere around 40 or 50 that still want a board. We figured we would start with the teachers that want the technology first. We started with requests from teachers, as well as some schools, such as our high school, decided to put smart boards starting in departments. So they started with their math department and put boards in there, and that's how they started. We also asked the teachers to submit a request to their principal. And so at first, we didn't have as many. We're getting more and more requests as time goes on because they see the popularity and what you can do with it. Our funding also has come from state, federal, private grants, as well as site funds. And school site funds, especially in this day and age, of course, are very limited. We also have several schools that have very active PTAs that have helped purchase boards. They've done, walkathons and just donations in general, and they have received boards that way. As I said earlier, the RUST grant really got everything started for us. And after that one and the SB 185, we also received a private grant where we were able to almost complete the rest of what we needed to equip every classroom. We've used Title I funding and the EETT funds to obtain equipment as well as provide for professional development. This year, we have 5 schools that have Title I funding. Some of these schools have used some of that money to purchase boards. And the stimulus money coming in our district, we will receive an additional $424,000 in Title I funds, and they're going to get about 6 or 7 boards with that money. And then also we're getting an additional $1.4 million in special education funding through the stimulus funds, and there'll be about 15 boards purchased out of that. We're also receiving $618,000 from a federal fund for school improvement. That's all for technology and distance learning, distance education. So we plan with that to expand our interactive capabilities as well as purchasing smart boards for those interactive rooms. In our grant applications, we try to put everything we might possibly need in that application, and as time goes on, we get better at including things, but, we'll put in the brackets, the mounting, the cabling, the wiring, even the time it takes for installation, as well as extra bulbs for the projectors. That's been one of our biggest challenges is technical support for all of the boards that we're installing and purchasing bulbs for those projectors. We have a smart rep that has been very good to us. So, of course, the more you buy, the better pricing you get. And then all of our technical support people in our IT department have been trained by SMART, so they're SMART certified in the technical end. And we've also used grant money to pay for SMART certification in our district, so there are several of us that are SMART certified on using the board and the notebook software. In each of the grant applications, they've come from a different perspective. And just to give you a couple examples, one was to demonstrate how the teachers and students can fully use the Internet to access other places. And so we do have one of our schools, Owyhee, is on an Indian reservation, and many of those Native Americans haven't even traveled off of the reservation. So we provided, with smart boards and using the Internet, we can kind of bring the world into them. Also, in some of the grant applications, you have to demonstrate how it can be integrated into the curriculum, and also student engagement, which I'll talk about in just a moment. But the smart board is obviously designed to increase the interaction students have with lessons. Therefore, that increases the student engagement. And so for several of our grants, we take information from SMART itself with the data that they provide. With our professional development piece, because, as I said earlier, you get all this equipment and you need some professional development. We're learning over time what we think works best for our school district. And so when the teachers are applying for a smart board or saying that they want a smart board, there's a short little application they fill out, which is very easy. But in that, they agree to take a training, and it has to be 15 hours provided by one of our trainers. And then we're also providing other classes that are beginning, intermediate, advanced. So we're getting into the specifics of using the notebook software to develop standards-based lessons. For those people that are just getting a board, we're providing that beginner-level training. We're starting to purchase the Smart Response systems, so we're going to start doing trainings on those as well. And what's worked for us with classes is to spread them out over the course of several months. We used to have what we called weekend wonder classes, and you might be familiar with those. And the teachers would come and you'd cram all this information into their head about using a smart board, and then they'd go back to their classroom, and then it was just too overwhelming for them. So now what we've done is we offer short classes, and the first month they come for 3 hours, 4 hours. We give them information. They're learning how to use the smart board. Then they go back to their classroom, take what they've learned, practice what they've learned, and then the next month they come back. And that way they can ask questions, what worked, what didn't you understand, what do you need to know, and then they come back again for more training, same thing, they go back, and then by that third month when they come back, they have information to share, projects to share, and then the whole class gets to see what lessons have been developed. And like I said, it just develops what questions they have, they can answer, they can ask the instructor there, and it keeps them in touch. So what happens is they can, after that class is over, they can keep asking the instructor, email them questions. That's part of what I do is the teachers can contact me, and I can answer their questions, or if I can't, I look it up for them and find out for them. I'll go to their classroom if necessary. And we're also lucky that we have a professional development program that's state-funded that serves 5 counties, and Elko County is one of them. It's the Northeastern Nevada Regional Professional Development Program, and they also have a regional coordinator that is trained by SMART, and they also assist our school district with professional development and providing information to teachers about their smart boards. In that same class, our incentive, we don't have funds to pay them, like Debbie had mentioned in hers, but what we do offer is graduate credit. We found a place that offers graduate credit for us, so that helps them to move over on the pay scale and for recertification. So that's our incentive, that and the fact that they committed to that training. And then they also have to write a reflection paper of what they learned, what they plan on implementing, so that it's written down. And then, of course, they have lessons that can be shared with others. And we put those on. I work at what we call the training center, and off of our website we put their lessons. We also use those reflection papers, and I'll show you in a few minutes. I have a couple quotes from those. We use that for data to put into our grants as we're writing those. Our district also has what they call the T4S model, which is Teach for Success, and each school is observed twice a year, and one of the aspects is student engagement. So we're starting to see an increase in our student achievement, and while at this point we can't totally prove that it's just because we've implemented the smart boards, we're trying, you can't isolate that, but we have seen some increases, and we're also starting to use our CRT scores to see if we have improvement there. Those are the things that we're starting to put in the grant applications of what we're going to see by having the smart boards installed. We believe that it's all of the initiatives that we have going in our school district that's going to make a difference. And just recently, in the May edition of Learning and Leading with Technology, which is put out by ISTE, the International Society for Technology and Education, they've done a study. While it's not in Elko County, it is in Washoe County, which is other side of the state for us, about what they found with interactive whiteboards. So they found that teachers, even those who had to overcome those technical glitches, liked using the smart board, and the students were engaged. And one more quote from that same article, which is actually called Evaluating the Fruit of Your Labor. And I'm not sure if it's on the ISTE website or not, if you can get to it without having a subscription to the magazine. But his project, Talbot is the man who wrote the article, his project provided a unique opportunity to observe teachers at different stages of professional development. So I found it interesting that the more teachers used the SmartBoard interactive whiteboard, the more likely they were to turn control of the technology over to students rather than just using it for their own lectures. Because in the end, isn't that what we want? We want the students using it more than the teachers. And just to wrap up a bit, I'll let you read there's a couple quotes there. Those came from the reflection papers. But just a couple comments they had. One last quote from a teacher in the education field for 28 years. And then just some words of encouragement, maybe some thoughts to ponder and maybe even use in a grant application or to present to your school board. How can kids go into another room next year that doesn't have a smart board? And then I'll let you read this also. There's a poem that a teacher wrote about smart boards, and I just found it interesting that the teacher wrote about the smart board, this piece of technology. They took the time to write this poem. I don't know about the audience, but I don't usually get poems from teachers on, for instance, writing a standards-based lesson or grading papers or student discipline even. The Elko County School District has been named a Smart Showcase District. So we actively and publicly applaud the use of this technology, and not just because we received something in exchange, but we truly believe in its effectiveness. So thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you so much, Susan, for sharing all of that information with us. It was really interesting. It was particularly impressive to see the amount of emphasis you've given to evaluation, because that ultimately is something that you can feed back into the cycle of getting more funding for technology. So thank you once again. And before we move over to questions, we do have one last poll question for our audience. Eric, could you push that out, please? Okay, great. So the question here is, which category best describes your school or district technology implementation? Is it new school construction project, renovation of an older school building, or both? Please submit your answer. Eric, are we ready with the results? If so, please push them through. Okay, great. So new school construction project is nobody, and 66.6% have selected renovation of an older school building, and there are 33% that have both types of technology implementation going on. So thank you very much for your answers. And now we're going to move over to questions. A number of questions have been submitted by the audience. So the first question I'm going to read out is for Susan. The question is, does your district have a technology plan in place? And do you have any best practices or resources on how to create an effective technology plan for our district?
The Elko County School District does have a technology plan, as I mentioned earlier, and we are going to work on revising it in this next year. I like Debbie's idea. They meet monthly, their committee does. We haven't been very good about that, so I'm going to take some of her suggestions that they do and mention those to our school district. But I'm also proud of the fact that our state has revised their technology plan, and we were lucky enough to work with several people from ISTE, and so they helped us design our technology plan for the state of Nevada. So if you're looking for ideas, I encourage you to go to the Nevada Department of Education website and check out our technology plan. And we also are hoping in the future here in the next couple of months to develop a template so that we can give those to our 17 counties in our state so that we're all on the same page and include some of the same things in our technology plan. And we hope to have some kind of template for that as time goes on. There's also the National Center for Technology Planning is a good place to go to, as well as to look at the National Education Technology Plan, which is also going to be revised this year with the help of ISTE.
Okay, that's great. And Debbie, would you like to add something to that?
We, too, like Susan, we have a state template, and when I referred to earlier in my presentation, we have to be approved by our state education system. And part of that is the template that's provided. So not only does the state fall under the National Tech Plan, then we therefore fall under the district tech plan as well. So, and that's statewide for us. So, you know, it is not like you have to go back and recreate the wheel. We do have a lot of guidance, and it's very encouraging to see Alabama, having that already in place.
Okay, thanks so much.
Mm-hmm.
So the second question, and a very popular question on most of our webinars, is will the presentation slides be available to participants? And the answer is yes. So once we are done with the webinar, as a follow-up, we will send the presentation slides over to all the participants. Additionally, the webinar itself will be available on demand. We will send a link through to you. So, at a future time, if you want to go over some of the webinar materials, you can. So another question is, do you have a central online location where teachers can upload and share notebook lessons they have created? If not, how do teachers distribute lessons after planning sessions and workshops? Do you currently have a process for evaluating Smartboard usability to ensure teachers are creating higher-order thinking skills? So I'll ask Debbie to take this first, and then, Susan, if you could follow, that would be great.
And answer to the first part of the question, we do provide central online storage for our teachers. They have a shared space where they post all of their documentation as well as web pages. We also have the same resources for students as well. So not only can teachers share with teachers, but also teachers are able to share with students. One of the new initiatives that we are putting in place for this upcoming year is a web portal where most of that information will be moved, to that portal to allow access outside the classroom and outside the district, because currently teachers only have access to that information while they're in school and have not been able to access it while they're out of school. The second part of that question, do you currently have a process in place for evaluating Smartboard usability? I will say yes, because our teachers, as we go through SmartBoard training, teachers share resources among each other, and they kind of shuffle through, what they prefer to use and then discard what's not being used. And we see that a lot with our elementary schools, the sharing of those resources. So that in itself is a way for teachers to share those resources and critique, and to build conversation and have conversation about which resources are used.
Thank you. Susan, would you like to add to that?
Sure. We don't have a central location. We do at each school, so a school would have access to what other teachers at their school are doing and share lessons that way. But right now we don't have a central location. I know that's been something that our district has talked about. I'm not sure if it will be put in place by next year or not. So right now what the teachers do, if they want to distribute their lessons, they give them to me and I put them on our training center website so that people can look for them. And as far as the second part of that question, we don't have a specific process. I think our teachers do, like Debbie's teachers do, and they go about their lessons the same way.
Okay, thank you. So the next question is, our district is located in a rural area with schools spread out across a distance. Professional development needs to be ongoing, and our challenge is facilitating regular PD opportunities and technology training for teachers who are remotely located in various rural locations. Any ideas for cost-effective ways to support this? And this question is for Susan, because you specifically mentioned some rural schools in your district.
Yes, we have that same challenge that they're so far away, and with some of our grants, we can provide travel so that they can come right here to the training center. It's hard to teach them how to use a SmartBoard through the use of interactive video, so we like them to come here. We do try to train someone in that area. For example, Wendover is a border town. It's on the border of Nevada and Utah, and it's about 109 miles from here. And we do have a smart trainer there so that they do have a person they can access. There's also a couple other things that you can do. We're starting to use, or will start to use more, the use of Moodle, which is classroom. We're going to use it as a management system for training, and that's free. There's also Joomla, which is more, I guess you'd have to say, website-based, but that's another free tool. There are some other, just to offer some short trainings or little videos. Teachers love SmartBoards, which is a great website, and they offer short trainings now. Some are for a small fee, some aren't. We use Smart's website quite a bit. We also use iTunes and podcasts from iTunes, as well as the YouTube Smart, or from YouTube, there's Smart Classrooms. There's some training videos on there. You have to look through a few of them, but there are some good ones there. And then as far as being able to chat or, train somebody, you can use Skype, or there's also DimDim, which is open source, and those tools are free.
That's great. Debbie, do you have any suggestions?
We use quite a few of the same resources that Susan referenced, of Skype being really up and coming in our area, especially with the availability of video now being packaged with Skype. One of the other things that we're toying with right now is Synchronize. It's a product of Smart. We had several students that were homebound due to illness where we were able to, have Synchronize put on laptops that we provided for those students, and they were able to interact with the classroom at the same time. So, that's been a very interesting aspect for us to begin to look at. The other part that we are doing is we are beginning to record through Smart Recorder most of the lesson plans and posting online just as soon as the classes are finished. For students to access, say they're absent due to illness, they can stay up to date, say in a math class. The teacher records every hand stroke and then turns around and posts it right onto their web page for immediate, access.
Yeah, that's great. I think online support is probably the best way to reach rural teachers. So
right.
Thank you for sharing. Next question is for Susan. Do you actually survey students as part of the T4S model, or is it based on observation?
For our T4S model, it is based on observation. We have teams that come in and observe. It's a 20-minute session, and they look for 4 actions, 85% or more of the students being engaged throughout the academic learning means through that 20 minutes that they observe.
Okay, thanks for that. So the next question is for Debbie. Any tips on how to best demonstrate success measures at the school and district levels? Accountability will be increasingly important as we will need to report on the impact of how we decide to spend our stimulus dollars.
Yes, evaluation, as Susan referenced, and I did not speak a lot to evaluation, is very important because, again, that's how you move towards sustainability is by proving benefit. I will say we survey our teachers after every professional development class we hold, after our 21st Century Learning Initiative. We post surveys to show what successes have occurred, not only to teachers, but, to students and parents as well, just to get feedback from how they perceive, what's going on and how successful the implementations have been going. So, and the other part is we are beginning to move into our first, we've been in laptop initiative now for moving into our 4th year, and we're moving into our first evaluation of that program from the university. So they've gone through having conversation with administration, having conversation with parents and students to see, their take on, the initiative all the way through. And part of that 21st Century Learning Initiative was the placement of smart boards in all of our classrooms, and to see, how the interaction of student to teacher, how it's becoming more student-centered and not so much teacher-centered. So, yes, evaluation is very important.
Great. And Susan, feel free to add any other information you might like.
Sure. We do a lot of the same things Debbie's doing in her district. We use KIA to survey the teachers, and after the class is over with, they fill out the evaluation, and we use that data, 1, for grant applications to use that, and 2, just to guide us of where we need to be going, what we need to be teaching, what do the teachers want from us.
Okay, thank you. So the next question here is, we have a difficult time finding funding to put technology in every teacher's classroom. If there's any creative ways of reducing costs or increasing funds, I would love to hear your ideas. So that's for both of you.
I'll start with this one. This is probably one of the hardest for us all, trying to find ways, creative ways, to reduce funding and redirect. One of the things I think that we have found is a reduction in paper cost that I referenced a little bit earlier. If you really stop and think about how much paper is used in the classroom and how much you can reduce by being able to post it online and being able to post it where you don't have to print all the time. One of the things with our web portal we're hoping to do is have a parent component and a community component where parents will be able to access, their children's grades online. So that way we hopefully can reduce costs by not having to print report cards. It's kind of real time for parents. Being able to post those announcements through podcast on the web pages. So that's one of the biggest things that are challenges or that we're trying to focus on is move everything to the web. And we know that there are parents that do not have access to the web. So, we've got to make sure that we accommodate. But just being able to reduce a lot of those costs by moving, to the web is probably one of the things that we're looking at and the most creative way that, you're beginning to hear people move to.
Okay. Anything else to add?
This is Susan. I agree with Debbie. That is a tough one. It is hard to find funding. I think one of the keys for us is just to get out there and talk with your school board, talk with parents, talk with teachers, administrators, first just to get them excited about the same thing you're excited about so that they see a purpose for even wanting or having this technology. We're fortunate enough we live in an area where gold mining is key here, and we've solicited our businesses around here to also help us out, and some of that is training them as well and getting them to know what is it that we want, what is this technology.
Okay, thanks so much. So we have just one more question, and that question is, can smart boards really make a difference for all grade levels in every subject? Our instructional technology staff wants to put one in every classroom, all 2,000 classrooms. So that's for both of you, Debbie and Susan.
I'll start. I will say yes in every classroom. We have seen benefit in art. We've seen benefit in the music. And I invite anyone that would love to come to Auburn and see. I think when you walk into like Auburn Early Ed, which is a kindergarten school, and you watch kids not only in the core classroom areas, but in the areas of music and art, engaged in what the teacher is doing and able to watch key strokes take place right there on the smart board in front of them. We've been able to see it take off in every classroom. And the secondary levels probably, once you hit the high school, maybe, you might struggle a little bit. But in your elementary grades from K through 8 for us has been just phenomenal.
I agree with that as well. I think it can make a difference in every grade level, every subject. We've seen it here, like Debbie mentioned, with music and art, special ed. Our smart board rep brought a smart table that has just come out fairly recently to us, and we think we see a great purpose with our special ed kids with that one. We have math teachers, science teachers, our PE teachers and coaches in the high school have really found a purpose for the board.
I have to add one more thing, and Susan mentioned the special ed classes. We have an autistic class that we have just seen amazing changes in students that were non-speaking, non-verbal, become verbal with the use of an airliner. So not only in regular ed classes, but in those special needs classes where kids are able to use those airliners. And I have physically, witnessed a child that was considered to be non-speaking begin to make sounds and speak when she was able to write on her airliner and see it displayed on the smart board. Anyway, it's out there, and it's a great resource.
Thank you very much. And just to clarify, the airliner is a wireless slate from SMART. And I would just like to add that in the higher grade levels, obviously, it becomes more and more about content as well. So it is as the availability of better, higher quality content it continues to grow, we will hopefully be seeing greater impact all around as well. So that brings us to the end of all questions, and we are pretty much coming up to the end of the hour. So I would just like to tell the audience that we have a new section on our website now available for those that are getting some stimulus funding. In case you want to find out what kinds of solutions are available from SMART that enable you to achieve some of our objectives, then you can go to www.smarttech.com/stimulus-funds. We also have another webinar coming up on the 2nd of June. It is entitled Closing the Skills Gap, Preparing Teachers for Technology-Enabled Classrooms. And all of our webinars that have taken place in this past month are available on demand. So there is the URL right at the bottom of the slide, and we will be sending the slides through to you so you can access them at any time. Before we end, I would like to thank both of our speakers once again for, sharing such good information with us and for taking the time out, and also the audience for, your keen attention. Before we wrap up, I would just like Eric to push the last exit poll through so that we can get some idea on how the webinar was, whether it was useful for you or not. Thank you very much.